problems. Sorry about that, everyone. Hey, this is the Pilot Review Show. We wouldn't have audio problems if it wasn't the Pilot Review Show, so... There we go. There's your audio problems for the day. I am Scott Ross, the main host of the Pilot Review Show. We also have Timber joining us again.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
And joining us as well, we also have Chris joining us again from the Bug
What's happening?
Bashers. And then Tankia, our science expert slash break the game person.
Meow.
So, for those who are not aware, the new skills are live on Tribble now. I've kind of been playing a little bit. I kind of stop and go, so I'm kind of in the middle of the Romulan storyline. So those who don't know, I'm going to turn the audio down all the way because it does need to be playing right now. But we're really here to discuss these new skill sets. And Timber's a little bit farther along than I am, I'm sure. You're working on your reps, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm working on the reps, but I've played enough with this new skill tree setup. It's nice. A lot of options in this thing now.
Yeah. So we talked about some of this yesterday, and didn't really get to see a whole lot. So far, because of the way things are set up and done, they just have basic skills going on here. Get down.
Meow.
And here I am muted, and I'm trying to talk to myself. Yes! More audio problems. So here's one of the things about this system. They got icons that they're going to have to add in here later on to make them all look better and match the actual text that they're going to go with. But we do have the descriptions and what they're actually adding to the skill bonuses that we're getting here. Some of the skills that we are used to seeing at the very front, like the energy weapons training, and then there's 3 levels of it. So it's not just one level anymore. It's got 3 levels of the training. So we've got a tier 1, 2, and 3. Same with the projectile weapons. Those are all, once again, lieutenant stuff. So it's right at the very front. So it's one of the first things that you can be planning on slotting out. Shield restoration, so you can help your shields healing. That's going to be necessary on a few different cases. You're going to have to play around with this. You're going to have to figure out what's best for you, but if you're a shield tank, that's probably a couple of things you want to be planning on it right up front. Shield capacity and the shield restoration. So that's a couple of things I can see. Tanks is going to have fun with the hull capacity and hull restoration because it's going to allow you to heal and be able to have more hull going on. If I can speak, it might help. But so we're seeing some of these things that's coming up, and if you notice on the screen here, see if I can make it a little bit bigger. That way it's less distracting here. So to get to the next level, you got to have 5 points, then 15 points, 25 points, and then 35 points at that point. To get down to the Admiral. So that is, and I'm guessing from looking at this, if you were to fill up the first 6, it would after the 5th one, it's going to open up the next one, 15, and I'm guessing, maybe Timber, you know this information. I'm guessing that when you open, as soon as you get that 5 points, it opens up that, so you can start with those next set of runs.
Yeah. It's not based on. Okay, I've got 5 points of tactical, so it unlocks the tier 2 of tactical. It's the same way as the old one where you just put in the number of points you need to unlock the next tier, and then you can start on the next tier to unlock stuff. So you can skip level 1 of science and start putting into Lieutenant Commander science instead if you want to. So it's going to jump around the same way you would anything else when it comes to this old system. That's still a good thing that they carried over with this.
Yeah, that's going to be a very good blessing, because if you look down the rank here, if we're looking down at sub commander, that's when we start seeing like the control expertise. You get down into the commander, and this Gremlin obviously This is where the exotic particle generator is. That's going to be some of the nice things there. And then if you need like your subsystem tuning, this is where you're going to get weapon power boost. So that's some of the things you want to be looking at maybe, so you can boost your weapons up higher. There's some things that you're not going to really need a whole lot of when it comes down to it. See, I got EPS in here now. A little bit better, I think, anyways. So, let's look at this. Warp core potential. They still got that. Some of the stuff they still have, and it's still the same thing that was there before. Shield Mastery is one of the last science ones that you can get. Coordination protocols. So this is going to be for your hangar bay pets. So those of you who like to be carriers, heavy carriers, this is going to be one of those skills that you want to be getting for your pets. No, so that's one of the things you can be looking at and planning on. You can increase their defense and their attack, so you can make those annoying obelisk swarmers last a little bit longer than they could before. Some of the other things to look at too is after you get so many points, you're going to get these toggle switches here that you can actually pick your particular choice that you have. So if you want a hanger weaponry that you're getting more damage from your pets, that's going to be able to do that. And it's from all sources. So that indicates to me that it would be also not just from your hanger bay, but if you got a device or a console. So all those hangers is going to get increase on damage. You got your threat control for those of you who are going to be trying to be tanks, so you can threat damage.
Threat control, I will say, it is a toggle activatable, very similar to how sensor analysis works. So instead of having to spend your skill points on threat, you're simply putting points into the tactical tree to gain the toggle. And maxed out, I've got Threatening 3, which is a 300% increase to threat gens, but it also gives you a 20% chance on incoming damage to increase your max hull, I believe by 5% for 30 seconds, and that can stack 10 times. It's giving you a max hull stacking bonus when you're getting hit, chance on hit, and you still have your threat gens, but it's something you can toggle off and on, so you don't have to spend points in that particular tree since it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
so
it's gonna be nice.
On the same tune, you can have a threat build and a non-threat build all in the same tune, and all it is one power that you either slot or don't slot.
Yep, because it gives negative 100 threat generation while not in threatening stance.
Yes.
Which is going to be nice.
It's going to make my life as a tank a lot easier and definitely give me more room to play with in the skill tree for stuff that I couldn't get before. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Definitely. I mean, and then for the DPS people who are trying to play the DPS role, it's going to help them out so they can remove some of that threat that they're getting as the course of them hitting so much harder than everyone else. The new setup, it seems to have a lot more things. I mean, we got critical chance for both torpedoes and for energy weapons. So that's something to look at. You're getting 1 critical chance and 5 critical severity, or one or the other. So that's something to keep in mind here. So if you're looking in specific to increasing like your crit chance, you're going to be able to do this. Some of the things that we've been talking about is how we're going to be able to actually slot enough things, because there is a skill here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hull penetration, shield penetration. So you can add stuff like that. Is that it? Critical sev, critical chance.
It comes down to they're giving you the option, if you put enough points into it, you can have up to an additional base 20% crit severity.
Yep.
And an additional base 6% crit chance. Now, the reason the crit chance especially is important, 6% crit chance, that's roughly equivalent to 3 vulnerability locators. So what you can do when you spec in this, you can sacrifice the vulnerability locators for this trait, 3 trait points. You can put your exploiters in there to ramp up your severity even further. Or put in maybe 1, and then you could use universal consoles if you want to up other stats or have activatables.
Yeah.
You'd actually be able to sacrifice crit chance, because it'll get to a point where you have wasted crit chance because you're already hitting with a good crit chance anyway.
Yeah,
Especially
there's
for
only so far
Romulans.
you can get before you're like, well, I got way too much that I need to have for this, and so
Yeah,
you can be able to, like we were saying, you can be able to trade out your locators for exploiters instead to increase the exploiter damage, or you, like Timber was saying, you can just trade out for a universal console instead of a tactical locator console or an exploiter.
And the big application of this is your Romulan tunes. They have so much crit chance and crit severity options when
Yeah.
it comes to SROs and everything else. From what I've seen of Scott's builds, you can average easily 34% crit chance on a Romulan tune. Easy.
That's as
Well,
it
with
is right
this,
now.
and that's with your locators, that's with your SROs, that's with everything. With this, that puts it up to 40%. Well, you really don't need 40% crit chance. You could sacrifice several locators and then put in an exploiter or two, or you could put in, if you took off, let's say, the assimilated module, you could put that on. You could activate one of these flagship consoles or the Critum Psi console. You'd actually have a little bit more diversity when it comes to tactical, because you won't need all that extra crit chance in a console. It'll simply be a skill trait that transfers to all starships.
Yeah.
So you'll have more diversity since you already have high crit chance anyway.
Yep. That one of the things that I'm looking at here, I'm looking forward to that because I'll actually slot it, drop all my TAC consoles or exploiters or do something crazy and put in 5 universal consoles instead. Um, but that's some of the things that we'll be able to do instead of actually having room to do stuff like that. We got some interesting skills that's in here as well, like this advanced tactical readiness. 100% ability recharge bonus would reduce an ability's recharge time to half of its base value. All right. Think of the things you can do with that. I don't even want to. I mean, I know what I can do with it with an A to B build as it is already. That's already dropping my stuff down. So this is going to make A to B a little bit faster. For those who don't know what A to B, that's Oxabat. Just throwing it out there. So that's some of the things that I'll be able to do myself. So when you're taking that into account of things, I may not have to use an Oxabat necessarily in some of my builds. Or I can use one Oxabat and be good from that point because it'll already drop it into a use of being able to instantly slot it in again.
I will say there's going to be one tier that is going to be necessary for all builds, and it's going to be because it's a boost to a lot of builds that are having issues. That is your long-range tactical sensors, if I remember the name of it correctly. Which, let me look. I don't want to...
Advanced targeting expertise?
Yep, advanced long-range tactical sensors. Okay, the way they explain it in the blog, at 10 kilometers, your beam weaponry has a damage fall-off of 40%. Your cannons at 10 kilometers have a damage drop-off rate of 60%. So there was an increased damage drop-off when it comes to cannons. What they've done is they have made them both 50% max drop-off. So they both have a 50% drop-off. Some people are already seeing this as it's a nerf beams and this, that, and the other. If you slot all 3 of your long-range targeting sensors in your science, your captain science, it's going to reduce that penalty to minus 20%. So in reality, it's going to be a 40% boost to cannons. It's going to be a 20% boost to energy weapons. So you're actually going to be able to hit harder at longer distances with cannons and beams than you can right now.
Yes.
Currently in the current meta. So that's actually going to be more beneficial for beam builds, but it's going to bring cannons much closer to end game or just being able to do anything because they're not suffering nearly as bad as they were.
Yeah.
And it could actually come into some builds that I've seen some people, they want to use a mix of cannons and beams because the damage drop off is going to be the same for both and reduced for both at the same time. Those kind of hybrid builds are actually probably going to work
Yeah, I'll be
on
able
the
to do
same
stuff
level.
on my reroute reserves setups that I use. I'll be able to actually start mixing those two, which could add a lot of damage potential to the ship.
Yeah.
Because I
I mean,
know
we're going
exactly
to
what I'd
see.
be doing. I'd be using the arc 90-degree cannon in my setup and
Well,
having
I'm,
fun with
I'm
that.
honestly thinking with this kind of change right here, it's going to bring back some of the builds that I saw when I first came to this game, where people would fly a patrol escort, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and they would have 4 dual heavy phaser cannons up front with 3 phaser turrets in the back. That kind of cannon and turret build will come back a lot stronger now with this change, because they're going to be able to hit harder from distances, and then that much harder when they're closer.
Yep.
So that'll definitely make cannon turret builds more of a meta when it comes to escorts. They will hit a lot harder.
Yep. And we're seeing a lot of the same skills that there was before, like the auxiliary subsystem performance and a defense, sub defense, and an offensive. I think those are the two new ones.
Yeah,
Um,
offense and defensive subsystem tuning.
Yep, and then you got the weapon subsystem performance that you have, and then the engine subsystem. So a lot of the stuff is still there, um, and you're going to start seeing people able to look at these a little bit better. Um, some of the things you're for a piloting aspect of things, you might not necessarily need in um, a run like ISA because there's some stuff in here. Where was it? I saw it earlier where it was improving your trans warp cooldown.
That is an unlock after I believe 10 points in your tactical. No, not tactical, not tactical. I do not want to
Engineering.
misspeak. It's 10 points in
Science.
science.
Science, yes.
You can either increase your maximum sector space travel speed by 25%, which means, and I've tested it, in sector space, your normal max speed right now is 9.97. With the 25%, you can do transwarp 10.99. So it's not that much, but it does move you through sector speed faster.
Yeah, so
It's either that or you select transwarp ability recharge 50% faster.
yeah, and if
And
you're
it's
doing
an
a lot of
option.
trans warping, that could be a little useful for you. Um, Personally, I'm not going from one planet to the next and then back to the planet that I was just at all the time. So it's not going to affect me a whole lot. Most of the time, I go to one planet and I'm there long enough to have the cooldown wear off completely. So for me, it's not going to be a big deal. But for other people, that might be something that you might look at doing. Fortunately, it's not a um, skill that you have to put points to like it was before.
No, it's just like threat control. You're putting points into a system, and it's an added bonus. You just get it as an added bonus added on,
Yep.
which has been nice. Now, I know Scott hasn't looked into it. I did notice something that I do not like already. I mean, there's bugs in the system where things are not showing up where they're supposed to, like your crit chance and crit severity bonuses. They're not showing up, whether you're in ESD, you're in combat, anything. They're not showing up. I don't think they're being added in because I'm not seeing the increase.
Yeah.
But what I do see, Scott, see the larger circles. You can highlight those for your choice selection. Highlight the smaller circles. It's for bridge officer training. Problem that I see here. Let's say you like to use Beam Fire at Will 3. Craft it for all your builds because you're a tactical tune, you're maxed out, you've got points in what you need to have, you can craft that. With this new system, the way it's set up now, if you want to craft Beam Fire at Will 3 as a tactical tune, have to have at least 17 points in the science tree.
Yep.
Which, that would mean you'd have to run something a little different. Whereas, let's say you want your attack pattern Omega 3. You want to be able to craft that. have to have 12 points in engineering to craft it as a tactical. There's some things that as a tactical right now, I will not be able to craft when this new system comes out. On the other side of this, they've added in at least 2 things that I know of that I've confirmed with other people that are not craftable that they're adding into the system. And those 2 things are, if you've got 22 points into science, you can craft aux to dampeners 3, which so far I have yet to see that in the game. The aux to dampeners 1 and 2, I haven't seen aux to dampeners 3. As far as I know, it's been unavailable. Now you'll be able to craft it.
Yeah.
The other thing is torpedo spread 3. Right now, the only way you can get that is off of bridge officers. After this goes live, 22 points in tactical on a tactical tune, and you'll be able to craft that ability.
And beam
which is actually
overload
kind of
3
nice
as well.
Yeah, you'll be able to craft a few things that have been previously unavailable. But the problem is you're having to put points into trees that you may not use just for the crafting. The one thing I've been telling my friends in game is, if you have access to something, go ahead and craft it, because when you do your build in this new system, if it stays in its current state, you may not get to craft it afterwards. And with this being the first day of the system, I don't think it's due until, April?
Yeah.
So it could change a lot in a couple of months. Revamp it a couple of times, they could change how things are placed. But just as a precaution, you know, go ahead and craft Fire at Will 3 or whatever you're going to craft, because you want to make sure you have it on stock if you can't craft it after the system goes live and you respec. Excuse me.
Yeah, you're going to want to have that ready to go. Fortunately, if you're level 60 captain, you're going to be able to just fill this tree out completely right off the start, from what we're being told. So that's one of the things to be aware of. And if this is looking like it's looking like, so if you want to get up to crafting all the best stuff, you want to at least throw in 22 items into tactical, and then have an engineer and a science on another captain. That's all, just 22 of that, so you can at least be crafting those things and giving them or selling them to people. And it's gonna be nice to see like Overload 3 and such that we can actually craft. I presume there's gonna be like a high yield 3 that we'll be able to craft again now too. No, not high yield. It is torpedo spread. Yeah, torpedo spread 3. That's the one that we're not able to craft. So all these skills that we can't craft right now, that we have to either get or that wasn't in the game, it's gonna be nice to see. Yep. I tell you what I like to see. I like to see a Ox to Bat 3.
Which currently listed, it's not listed in the craftables, and neither is High Yield 3 in this system.
Yeah,
those two are not. Those are not listed.
My real question, Timber, is Photonic Officer 3 craftable in this new system?
Let me see here.
That is hands down the rarest of all the Pokemon.
The rarest of all Pokemon?
It only came out with a holographic science officer that's no longer in the game. And it was like account bound, so the rarest of Pokemon.
Well, I can tell you right now, no. That is not a part of the skill tree as far as something you can unlock as a craftable.
But that might be something they could always add in.
Yeah.
Cryptic, please.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like I said, it's day 1.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's already issues with it because, well, it's new.
There's
but
some
at least
things that's not working.
At least for this first week, we're testing it on base characters. We can test out the system initially, and we can write these reports up to, hey, the bug hunter that's in the room, and submit them. And then as of next week, we'll be able to test out our regular characters. So we'll actually be able to test out the builds that we're used to in this system and see how much it improves or does not improve our builds at all. So there's at least that. We at least get to play with it. And we have it in the system for a few months before it goes live. So hopefully there's plenty of reports, bug reports, and suggestions they take into account and start, modifying the system better so that when it does become live, it could be potentially better than it is now.
From what I'm seeing, I believe we're off to a good start. Obviously, yeah, they're gonna have to do some shakedowns of the system, get all the bugs out and everything. But it it looks like overall we're gonna see a lot more build diversity from everything, and yeah, a lot more skills that we're gonna get to test drive we may not normally have gotten to with the old system.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens, um, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that's gonna become very beneficial. I mean, those, for example, the beam overload. That's a huge thing for some people.
Well, it's not just that. The other thing that's interesting is these ultimate abilities, which you have to spend 25 points minimum in a tree to get.
Yeah.
Now the one that I maxed out.
Yeah.
The one I maxed out is called Focused Frenzy. Now I've already looked up what it does on a base. For its base, it has the same. It's almost the same cooldown timer as your sensor analysis. It's like a 2-second cooldown. But you apply it the same way you would sensor analysis. You mark a target. Well, when you're marking a target, every energy weapon that hits the marked target increases your firing cycle haste by 2.5%. That is a stackable up to 10 times. So when it stacks fully during the activation, that's a 25% firing cycle haste. What makes it cool, even cooler than it is, if you can continue to invest points in it, what it does with Frenzied Assault, while you're stacking 2.5% firing cycle haste, it also stacks 2.5% all damage for the same amount of time. So just with those two, it's 25% firing cycle haste, 25% all damage bonus.
This is gonna be fun.
Then you add in
I'm having so
frenzied
much fun.
reactions, and that ends up at maximum 10 stacks, minus 2.5 on your bridge officer cooldowns. So it's not that much of a cooldown reduction, but it is a little bit. And then the big thing, and I can actually see using this, I might have to change it around to test it. The last thing you can put onto your Focused Frenzy is Team Frenzy. What that does is when you cast Focused Frenzy on a target, it's a team cast, so your allies get the bonus from it as well. So your teammates get, with any of their energy weapons that hit the marked target, the firing cycle haste and the all damage. So it's going to be a team cast of firing cycle haste and all damage if you have it maxed out. And that's going to be really nice, especially for these group runs where you're trying to go for speed records. Because you can get everybody doing an insane amount of damage on marked targets. Especially if they're high hull and shields, you can nuke them pretty quickly.
Yeah. And that's going to be one of those things, for someone like me who's already using reroute, that's going to add to the bonuses because it's going to go, especially if you can time it so it goes in between it. We were kind of talking about this earlier where we're probably going to want to make sure that on some of the haste stuff that we're not necessarily doing it and firing it all at one shot. We want to be staggering it so it's a consistent thing throughout the entire match, so that we're, as soon as one goes down, another's going up and keeping it going for that. And that's one of the tricks of anything is too much of one thing at one time isn't going to be as good as if it was spread out over a period of time. For example, that's one of the reasons why a lot of builds that are in the DPS race have two fire at wills equipped because they're trying to stagger them so one goes off, then the other one's ready to go off in about 15 seconds after that. So that's some of the things to be looking forward to and be planning on, so that you're staggering it equally, and you're not seeing any issues in between. So, uh, so there's a couple other things that's kind of interesting to look at. If you're an engineer, You're going to have the weakening corruption for your ultimate skill, enhanced corruption or explosive corruption. Um, the enhanced corruption is going to be more plasma damage over time.
Yeah, the corruption basically it's adding a plasma dot proc to your weapons whenever
Yes.
it's activated. So it's not going to be as powerful as the old plasma consoles when they were plasma dots,
Yes.
but it's a similar thing. You activate this and you've got plasma dots on your beam weapons. Only this time it's not a chance, it just happens. And then you can add into it to make it more powerful. And with these plasma dots also nerf the outgoing damage of the target. Or you can, and when you finally, if you want to max it all out, or if you want to select this one, you can make the plasma damage become an AoE. Instead of it just hitting one target, it becomes like plasmatic biomatter
Well,
and
it'd become
explodes
like
and hits multiple targets.
it'd become like the current plasma consoles where they explode when they go off.
Yeah, but if I remember correctly, the plasma consoles now are, even the explosions are single targets.
Yeah.
These are AoE that affect other foes as well.
Yep. And then science has got a good set of things. The probability shell, penetration, and window. Where the shell is doing a healing and shield healing for hull and shield healing. Those are doubled. So yeah, if you got to do a mega increase, so people like Tankia who likes to play a support role, he's going to be able to do twice the amount of healing that he could do before.
So basically, no one's ever gonna die.
Very good for
Pretty
tanks
much.
as well, such as myself. If I'm trying
Yes.
to not get my face beat in by a Gate in the Galore or a Pickle Ship or, even the Borg Queen.
The problem that you would run into is that you would have to max out your science skills to the max. So you'd have to be relying on someone that's got science maxed out, pretty much. That's the unfortunate thing. You got to be looking at this here.
Yep, that's the only trade-off
Yeah.
that
So
I don't really care for as a tank. But yeah,
yeah. So that's one of the things. I personally, because my true love of weapon energy that I'd love to be back in using, which I will be eventually. I'm working on that as it is. Would be to get back into my Romulan plasmas. That's what I started off as, and that's one of my first original builds in this game. And I'd love to have the 25 engineering, but I'm not going to sacrifice all my tactical stuff to do that. It's going to be too much of a crippling on me, and that haste is going to be so nice. So that's what I'm looking at myself. But so I mean, there's still a lot to this. There's still right now on Tribble, they pretty much wiped it completely clean because they wanted everyone to start with a fresh, clean character. So that because that's the first step of anything. You want to make sure that for a new character, for a new person, that it's going to be working at that level first off before you get going into the old players who's already been here, who's going to have instantly everything that they need in 2.5 seconds. So that's one of the things that's going to be interesting here to see is what happens to us old players and how this is going to affect our builds. And I bet you we're going to be touching this quite extensively as soon as they give us the ability to transfer characters over again and use our old characters to play around on this setup here.
Oh, heck yeah.
That's what a week or two out. I think they said it was a month.
Yeah, it's within the next week or so. You'll be
So-
able to transfer your live characters over.
So there's things like that we'll be able to do. So that's good. That's the fortunate thing here is it's coming, and we're gonna have the fun with that. We're gonna enjoy that. It's something that is going to be interesting to see how it works and how it's going to impact the game and our gameplay of how we're running our characters as it is. And I think it's going to be a learning curve for anyone right off the bat. We're gonna have to figure because you have to figure out. It's like, okay, do I really need the plus 100 skill points to max out my weapons when I'm trying to do a heal. Well, maybe I'm trying to do like Tanky is trying to do a more universal build, so he can step into any role without too many issues. So he's going to be playing around, looking at each of the different skill bonuses and trying to figure out on Tribble before he goes to his character when it goes live, and have a good round number that's going to allow him to still do each of his roles on his one character that he uses. And it might come down to that we might have to figure out that we can only do one role on our characters, and we need other characters to do other roles again.
The other thing that some people might have missed is some of the skills that they've taken out. They have modified those abilities as if you had max points in them. So attack patterns is no longer in here.
Yep.
However, they are going to be boosting attack patterns to represent you having max points in them. So if you're used to running attack pattern points at maximum, you're not going to lose anything because it's already going to be pre-built in. Big thing that I noticed is things that require sensors are getting boosted as well. The sensor skill. The things that are affected by sensor skill are your sensor scan from a side tune, fire on my mark for your tactical.
Yep.
That's actually getting boosted as if you have 99 skill points in that. So a lot of us don't put any points in sensors. You know, it's one of those things we completely ignore. Well, now we're basically getting a free boost to that debuff, which currently, and I don't have my holodeck numbers up, but for Tribble, in combat, Fire My Mark III is doing a minus 41.5 all damage resistance. Now, I don't have, like I said, I don't have the numbers from holodeck, but if this skill is affected by sensors, that would mean 0 sensors, that's going to be a lot lower of a debuff.
Mm-hmm. So that's the space traits there that we've been looking at and focusing on here. They've redone the ground ones. The ground ones is kind of where you only get half of the total skills that's possible here. So in essence, you could only get like the first tier in one of these, and then these other 4 at the bottom sets here, if that was your desire. But you know, you're gonna have to figure out exactly what ones you want and you're needing. For example, you have the Armor Master. If that's something that you feel you need because you're trying to be a tank in some match. Regeneration, obviously, those is going to be good for the tanks to be able to heal themselves back up quickly, so they can take the abuse and the damage that comes at them. So if you're big into using kits, you got the kit skills here. This could be very useful for those people. That might become a staple for some people, I can see. And then you got the shields on the ground here, so you can improve your shield. So if you want to do some ground shield tanking, you definitely can make use out of that. And then obviously you got the weapon proficiencies that, for those who are looking to do the damage, I have a feeling this is going to get maxed out for those who are looking to do the ground DPS side of things. But I had to say the biggest improvement I see here, that's the biggest potential here, is one factor, and that is that a space captain can be the same as if he was a ground captain now. There's no like difference between someone who focuses on space or ground anymore. They're about equal. And it looks like every single ground skill that you get, you're getting a some sort of boost that goes on with everything as well. I don't know if you play around with the ground stuff yet, Timber, have you?
I mean, no. I've seen that they've given things to the ground that they've given to space. So you can add in armor pin for the ground. You can add in crit chance and crit severity. But it's nice what they're doing. I think they're trying to bring back ground more viable, something you can build into more.
Yep. So it's going to be interesting to see some of the things that we're going to be capable of doing now because of this. And it definitely is each one that you are adding as you're getting your ground points. They're giving you a bonus skill that you can toggle on to increase your ground capabilities, which is one of the biggest things that I've seen major issues with for a long time. Because I can make my space captain, and I can make him the best space captain as possible, fully decked out for space, all 300 points with 66,000 points in ground. Well, if I wanted to make him the best ground captain, 66 to 100,000 isn't a big difference. It does make some points difference, but in this case here, in this scenario, a ground captain could for sure be as good as any space captain now. And there's no difference between your ground captain and my ground captain now. It's just going to be a matter of how I use the skills versus how you use the skills and what you use for your skills in your slots. And these have a master skill as well, so you get the offensive mastery, so you increase your weapon proficiency in the criticals, or you can be the defensive guy and trying to add more defense to your stuff. So that's some of the things I'm kind of liking about what I'm seeing here. There's a lot of nice items that they brought into this new system. It would be nice when they get rid of these default icons here.
It's seeming like it's all around kind of like what we thought whenever we got the original announcement, that it's going to be a buff overall. It may be a little bit weird at first, especially, I know, for me as a tank, I'm going to have a lot more tools to play with that I've never had access to before. One being the countermeasure systems being rolled into some of the control stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got shield reflection. That's going to be an interesting one to test out. And then just some of the cooldown reductions, other things in general. It's going to be interesting to see what people come up with.
You know, and I think it's about time that they rolled some of these things into one thing, because we had so many that really was one particular set of items, like your deflector items. They split those up before, so some of your deflector stuff was scattered all around. And I haven't looked closely, but you know, the one thing I haven't seen is like the part gens separation. I could be missing that, or go through it.
Is exotic particle, I believe.
Yeah, all part gens are now under exotic particle.
Yeah, and then grav gens.
Grav gens, subspace decompiler, and like one or two others are all under control expertise now.
Yeah, so I'm trying to find that. There it is, control expertise. So for like tanking myself, I can guarantee you, for our gravity wells, we'll be having these maxed out. Simple as that. Yeah, the nice thing is they got this control amplification here, and it's anytime you cause an enemy to suffer control effect, they will temporarily have the damage resistance rating reduced, meaning more DPS, and that effect will only trigger a maximum of once every 5 seconds. When control is used in full, negative 20 all damage resistance. So that's pretty much like penetration right there, like the pin mod. Honestly. And then it's everything else is less like it was before, where you can get the plus 100 exotic damage. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm going to have to obviously play around with this and see what's going on myself. And I know Tim has already been working on it. I kind of just started just barely and haven't really done a whole lot because I've got so many other things going on outside of Star Trek Online, sadly. So I got a lot of things that I'm trying to do, but I'm still trying to keep up on everything here, which makes juggling a whole lot harder, honestly. but it's still very possible, and it's very nice. But so I know Tinky, you're not in Tribble to be able to look at it. Um, but based upon what we've talked about, what's your thoughts and impressions on it so far?
So far I think it sounds pretty good. Sounds like a lot of what we expected. Which is gonna be probably the best for the community because it's not gonna be too different from what we have. It's just relearning how everything's laid out. And I think that's gonna be the most important thing, and probably just optimizing some things.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? What are you looking forward to on this?
Me, I'm looking forward to getting to skills that I've never had access to as more of a tank person. I would love to have tested out the countermeasure systems or some of the abilities that would allow me to boost something such as jam sensors if I'm in a bit of a pickle. But under the old system, if I wanted to do that, I would have to give up so many points that I would get myself elsewhere. So for me, this is good because now that I don't have to spend stuff on threat control, I can do stuff like that. And I think people overall are actually going to be surprised when they get in here and test this out to see, just how much build diversity this is actually going to enable.
Yeah, I think you're totally right on that. I mean, it's going to increase a whole lot when it comes down to it. Timber,
Yo!
what's your thoughts? What's your impressions on this so far? You've had more time to work on it. I know you've been over at Drozana grabbing those 10,000 points.
Actually, I've already gotten everything done. I'm testing it out on a free sovereign right now since you can't access any starships other than the ones they give you leveling.
Yep.
I will say that Focused Frenzy is activating on it's getting its on every hit with an energy weapon, you're getting a stack. So if you're running 8 beam arrays, within 2 firing cycles, you're at max stacks of this. So you're getting benefit of Focus Frenzy with a FAW build within a second, more or less. So it is a good boost to your firing cycle haste. I'm noticing it visibly. And the damage output is increasing. So Focus Frenzy is going to be nice. Overall, I do like the system. I like the diversity you're going to have, options you're going to have overall. I mean, there are some things, like I said, the crit chance and crit severity, those bonuses are not currently working. I'm not seeing them listed.
Yep.
I think that is a bug.
It happens.
Yeah, so I think they might redo a little bit the crafting for the bridge officer training, because to me personally, it seems a little weird. But that many, 17 points in science to craft a beam fire at will 3. Me, that sounds a little weird. Maybe they have a flowchart of how it makes sense to them. It just, for me as a player, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's one of
You
your
have to
first
put
things
that
that
much
you
in
want to be getting.
science. Yeah, to me, it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, overall, I like the system. I really do. We're going to see a lot of different things working a lot better than they do now. For the ones that are working, they're going to get better. And it's just going to take us fine-tuning this. I mean, we've had the old skill tree now for a while. So this is going to take a while for people to get used to and find the best hybridization for a standard build, or if they want to go max DPS or max tanking. It's going to take a while to really refine those builds, but when they are, I think they're going to be better than what they were.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be interesting to see how this rolls out here. In the end, when it comes down to it, I think this is going to make things a lot simpler for people, because now you can start picking and choosing and saying, you know what, I want this one, I want this one down here, and I need this one down here, because now it actually makes sense of what it's going to be doing. Before you had to read it and read the fine lines, and unless you were using some help like StowAcademy.com, knowing that part gens and grav gens helps out a gravity well isn't exactly crystal clear. Some people just slotted for one and then left it at that. You never slotted for 2. You always slotted for 1 at least. And so I think this is going to be one of those things that is going to be interesting to see how, in the end, it rolls out. And I do see that they're missing like the gravity well and the information for the improved control expertise. Maybe it's a typo. Maybe it's something that's not affected by this as much. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But it's going to be interesting to see how this comes out. I think this is a great step. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of other steps that's going to have to go in place to make this the best that it can be, and that's where we got to work around to be at the right level that we need it to be at, and it's going to take time. So, anyone else got anything else that they want to bring up or say?
I think actually the Gravwell thing, they're calling it a repel or a pull. It says disable, holds, repels, pulls, confuse, placates, speed, debuffs, turn rate, all that good stuff. I could be wrong on that, but it's something that begs clarification.
It really does. I think this is one of those things that it would make sense if they, instead of putting like the control effects, if they put the skills that's impacted by it instead. Because that would make because you want to have that relation between like what the skill does to the skills that you have or the skills that that you could get. So, for example, if you may not have gravity well on your buff list, but it says this impacts these skills in this way. All right. Maybe it says in the control, it says this is going to hold them in longer, or it's going to pull them in from a longer distance, whatever it is. And then the exotic damage says this is going to cause you to do more damage, and that's what a lot of people are trying to do anyways with having the exotic particles, is you're trying to do the most damage with the gravity wells, whereas other people like Tankia likes to pull it from the other side of the known universe and galaxy. And then some. So that's going to be one of those things that's going to be interesting to see how these roll out and become more defined, because I got a feeling these will probably just do this. If you look at them side by side, these subscriptions would be very similar to what we see currently on Holodeck. And that's just my impression.
I have one question since I don't have it up in front of me. Are they similar skills giving the same amounts as like rank 9 in the skill we have currently? Okay.
Yeah.
So
sorry, I hope they're gonna give more.
Yeah. So like for example, with the if we go to energy weapons, the first level is given plus 50, the second level is given plus 85, and then the third level is given plus 15. So it's almost the
same is true for your drain expertise. It's giving you the same boost of flow caps. It's just also giving you the same level at insulators and subsystem repair.
It's almost exactly the same as it is right now in the mount. The only difference is instead of having to apply one or having to apply 3 of them at one time, it's just one thing that you're slotting in there, one skill that you're picking. So that's the biggest difference that you're going to see here, is you just pick one instead of having to hit click, 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 and you're done. It's not going to matter that much anymore. You just pick your skills that you want to have slotted, and you're fine from that point on. So that's some of the things to be looking at. It's the same amounts, this less clicks. So. And they got it so if for those who didn't know, is that they got this little drop down so you can actually hide the bottom bar, which is one of the things that bugged me the most in the specialization tree, because I didn't exactly want to see that all the time, and that was always there. So it's one way to actually make it show up more, but that's the SC skills. Like I said, this is going to take some time for everyone to get used to. If you're not on Tribble playing around with this, I really suggest getting onto it. I'll include a link into this YouTube video here that will show you all how and what link you need to go to so you can transfer your character over when it's time. Right now, you just log into Tribble and you start a brand new character. You have to go through the tutorial. So if you're not a big fan of the tutorials, you might want to wait and see how it's going to affect your characters that's advanced. But I really suggest, really suggest to do a brand new character, even though the tutorial might be boring in your opinion. And that's simply because of the factor, the more bugs we catch at this point, the better off we all will be. Because you might find something that's going to affect your new character on this new leveling up character that you might not have noticed until it was too late and they have brought it over to holodeck at that time. So the more bugs we catch now for them and help them catch it, the better off we'll be and the better off they'll be as well. So take the time, make the effort, come over, plan on holodeck, even if it's something that you only do for a few minutes to try and just get used to it and learn how things are working in it. It's going to be beneficial for you, I promise you. You won't regret that time that you're spending to do something like this. And I'm sure Cryptic will thank you for your time to help them find any bugs that you happen to see. Any mistakes in the descriptions or anything else like that. So, anyone else have anything else you want to say?
I like turtles.
You like
Turtles.
Meow. Anyways, thank you all for watching the show here. This is Pilot Review. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe. That helps us out to know that we're doing a good work. Plus, it just allows you to follow us when we're going live on a regular basis, because I'll be doing that a lot more, whether it be for this show or for other shows that I plan to do in the near future or whatever happens. So, thank you all for watching and enjoying. Please hop on Tribble and help out. Smash these bugs. Have a wonderful day, everyone.